Close enough. All right.
Let me know when you're ready.
I'm ready when you are.
Okay. Brooke, would you like to start us off with roll call?
Yes. Jerry Wade,
Here.
Thomas Stark,
Here.
Owen McCall,
Here.
Jerome Vernon,
Here.
Ken McWilliams,
Here.
Mike Pittman, and Josh Wilbur, who know are absent. All right.
Okay. Has everybody on the board had a chance to review the minutes? Any comments, additions, or deletions? Take a motion.
I move we approve the minutes.
Second.
I second.
I believe we had Brooke, one board member that would like to ask a question.
Okay. Would you like to do it before roll call vote on the minutes?
Oh, we'll do it after that. Yeah.
Okay. Wade? Sorry, I'm saying just last name, Jerry. Wade.
Present.
Approvers.
Approved.
Yeah. Alright. Wilbur, Josh Wilbur, obviously done. Ken McWilliams,
Approved.
Jerome Vernon,
Approved.
Owen McCall,
Approved.
and Thomas Stark.
Approved. Okay, Ken?
Brian, two questions before we start.
Yes.
It seems each month we have projects started without approvals, either from us, and so I assume without your approval either. So all contractors have to be approved by your office to do work in town, correct? Then the other question is there a process to suspend or take away that ability to do work in our town?
Well, we are looking at options for, I guess maybe a stronger or stricter enforcement in relation to that. And I think honestly, Nicole is probably heading that, heading that direction, so she can speak to it better. Of course, we have to be careful with what we can and can't do for policy purposes. But yes, we want to put something in place that basically, again, reminds contractors that there are processes and procedures, and there are a lot of them that have worked in this area over and over again, and yet they still might make a blunder like that. And I guess we all make mistakes, but we also understand that we've been there before. We understand there's a process there, so we want them to keep working. We want people to keep investing in their properties, but we also have a process. So. Long answer, sorry.
I think we just need to have a process for penalties.
Yeah, yes.
And to that point, for public record, our team has worked very hard to make the process a lot easier. In some cases, you can take your application and get it approved immediately. In other cases, you will have to come before the board. But we have lots of resources to help you guys, and anything to move the process along as fast as we can. Thanks, Ken. Okay, just a few notes about tonight's meeting. First of all, I'd like to welcome everybody here. And we would like, when we call your name or your application, we'd like for you to come to the podium, state your name and your address. And then we'll have Brooke lead us through the presentation and show us the project or projects that you have ongoing. And then at that point, we'll ask the board if they have any questions, comments, thoughts. We will also ask the public if there are any questions or comments that they would like to add. After we've concluded that portion of the meeting, then we will ask each board member to discuss their feelings about the application based on city ordinances and on our guidelines that we follow. Then after that, we will ask for a motion, ask for a second, and then we will vote on your particular project. And if it is approved, Brooke will send out a certificate of appropriateness, and you'll get that in the mail. Okay, Brooke?
First, we have Randall Cole first at 1205 West Main.
Hi, I'm Jan Melton at 423 East 4th Street. I'm representing.
You turn on the, push your little button.
Red button, and you'll see a red light, there you
Or
go.
green, there you go.
No, no. I'm Jan Melton at 423 East 4th Street, and I'm representing Randall Cole at 1205 West Main. I don't know if you remember when we were here the month before last,
Mm-hmm,
and we did get the grant.
yes, congratulations.
Yes, and I'm so thankful to you all because I knew nothing about that. I thought they were grants that you had to pay back.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. So we did get it, so we're okay. So I guess what we're here for is the back windows. in the back.
Yes, ma'am, the final approval on everything. And I'll go ahead and introduce the project. Just as a reminder, it is a circa 1880 contributing shotgun in the residential medium density zone. The COA is to replace the windows with 8 aluminum clad and 4 vinyl in the rear. The windows will have a 1-in-1 configuration. There are no relevant staff approvals on that. And just as a refresher, the pictures you can see, the windows, when I've gone out to do a site visit, are beyond 80% deteriorated. They are, not able to be repaired at this point. So the window all the way on the right in this picture is an example of what will be going in. But we did modify the application now with the additional PACE grant funds to, they are gonna purchase as many aluminum clad as they can with the money. And then, but they are still requesting the 4 vinyls in the very rear. Those are should not be visible, I don't believe. Or I think, is there an alley back there or?
There is, but I mean,
The house sits way up.
Mhm.
Doesn't sit
It
close to
does.
the alley.
I wanted to say it was not very visible at all from the alley, on the rear of the house. If I can recollect.
There's no shed blocking it. I mean, you can, it's, as she mentioned, it's a deep lot,
Mhm.
but there's nothing obstructing your vision.
Okay, and maybe I apologize, and maybe that, I guess I just lost, there it goes. Then it may be visible then, you may be right, I'll be honest with you, I can't remember, I should have gone back out and done
Well, the existing
another
windows,
visit.
excuse me, the existing windows along the back of the house, they're not wood windows, they're
No.
aluminum framed windows.
Right, yeah, a lot of the windows, the ones on the sides were, some of those were still original wood windows, but several of the windows had already been replaced in the house, so they were, modern replacements. I don't know what's going on with my screen, I apologize for having technical difficulties.
Mm.
Let's try. Okay. I'm
Is
good.
that it
We're good.
with your
Yeah, sorry, I'm
presentation?
good,
Okay.
yeah, that was it.
Yeah, I think most of us remember coming here, and I'm so glad you had the chance to, apply for those grants and get them. That's good news, right?
Oh, yes, it is.
Let's start with Jerry. Any questions, comments in regards to this application?
I do not have any questions.
Ken?
No questions.
I do have a question. There's a, along the side door of the property, there's a couple of windows in that area that actually look like they're in really good shape, not too bad shape. Were you planning on replacing those two?
You mean the side porch?
On the side porch, yes.
No, we weren't planning on doing, no,
Okay.
the contractor
Thank you,
looked
thank
at
you.
them and he said that he thought they would be okay.
I see, okay, no further questions.
So they're not part of the application, right?
No,
For
not,
replacement, okay.
not on the porch.
Okay. And Owen, I'm glad to hear that, and the reason being is those two windows on that little side porch are a historic footprint of what that house probably had all the way around, and I would hate to see those lost, so I'm really happy to hear that those are gonna stay as they
Yeah,
are.
they were in pretty good shape.
Yeah.
Unless maybe, because they're on the porch and that.
Protected.
Yes, they were protected, yeah.
Okay, good deal. So, Owen, would you like to start us off on, I'm sorry, were there any comments from the public? Thoughts, concerns? Okay. Owen, would you start us off on the findings of fact?
Okay, well, this is covered in the residential guidelines, pages 60 through 63. The pertinent part of this recommendation is that point number 3, which says that windows should only be replaced if they're 80% deteriorated or missing, which these are. And as far as materials, anodized aluminum, covered wood, or wood windows are appropriate. This is a quote, "Vinyl windows should not be installed on any facade visible from street views," unquote. This is we're on the rear where you are planning on putting in vinyl. That is not a street view, it is a public thoroughfare. So it's a little bit of a gray area there. Not too many people are going to be walking down there looking at the historic buildings, but technically speaking, it depends on whether you want to consider the alley to be a street. If you do, then this would not be, according to the guidelines. If you feel like an alley having vinyl windows visible from the alley, then it would be consistent with the guidelines.
Thank you. Jerome, you agree, or?
I disagree with that to a certain extent, because along from the alley view, the windows that are visible are aluminum windows that are probably dated, I would say, somewhere 1960s or so. So they're not historic windows. You're basically replacing a non-historic window with a non-historic window. So I'm not quite sure how maybe you would know if how the guidelines would apply to that. But I believe just from an aesthetic standpoint, a nice vinyl window would look a lot better than the 1960s style aluminum windows that are visible from the alley. So I believe it'd be a good improvement.
Thank you. Ben?
Mr. Chairman, I think that, the applicant's plans are perfect to replace it. She's gotten the application, the grant approved, she's up to the quality of the windows on 2 sides, and the back vinyl windows are fine to replace vinyl windows.
And Jerry?
I agree with what Ken just said.
Okay. Ask for a motion on this particular project?
Sorry.
Ben, are you ready?
Yes, sorry,
Okay.
eventually I'll be ready. So, based on the findings of fact, I move that the Madison Historic District Board of Review grant the C of A to the address at 1205 West Main Street, Randall Cole, for the proposed change in windows.
Jerry?
I would second that.
Owen?
Are we voting now?
Oh,
Motion's been seconded.
yeah, so, did we we get a second?
Yep, to Jerry.
Okay. So let's, go ahead and then, ask for, or
Roll call.
a roll call, yeah.
Jerome Vernon,
Approved.
Jerry Wade,
Approved?
Ken McWilliams,
Approved.
Owen McCall,
Approved.
and Thomas Stark.
Approved. Okay, so, and I want to add that I also agree for all the same reasons. I think that, you know, the double hung windows that you're putting in to replace all the ones that are in such bad repair are going to look a lot nicer and actually protect the home. And I want to commend you and your contractor on saving the two historic windows under the side porch.
Okay, all right, well, thank you very much.
Brooke will have a COA sent to you through the mail.
Okay, all right, thank you very much.
Okay, our next application, Brooke, would you introduce?
Well, this one, just to clarify, because it was on the legal notice, 81113 East Second Street. The applicant has requested to withdraw his application. Big win, so I want to celebrate with everyone. He has decided to restore all the wooden windows, the original to the house.
That is a big win.
So, really excited about that one.
Okay,
All
so
right, so-
is there anything we need to do then with that particular?
No, it was just because it was on the legal notice, I did want to make public record that it had been withdrawn.
Thank you. So our next applicant then is Vildan Meredith.
Yes. Yep, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Vildan Meredith, 714 Settle Tree Lane,
Mhm.
and I want to put carport, if I could.
Okay. Brooke, would you lead us through the application?
The house is no longer standing, the primary home structure, due to a fire, but it was originally a 1950 non-contributing home, zoned historic district residential. The COA request is to install a single car metal garage, carport to the left of the driveway. And I did do a staff approval to install a chain link fence along the rear property line. And then there was no approval needed to pour a gravel driveway, to run alongside the paved driveway underneath the carport area. But that was in the application, so I wanted to address that as well. The photo on the left is of a similar style, carport that she is looking at. And the photo on the right, the placement is going to be approximately, and Ms. Meredith, tell me if I'm right on this, I believe it's gonna be right behind that tree or right in front of the tree?
It's gonna be further from the tree.
Okay, alright. So we have, a site plan, just kind of loosely showing the approximate location. It will be well off of property lines, and all of that, but that's it, that's the application.
Okay, do we have any questions from the board? No? Owen, Jerome?
I have no questions.
Okay, Owen, would you, or I'm sorry, Jerome, would you like to start us off with the findings of fact?
Sure. Okay, new construction, finding of facts, new construction infill residential guidelines where historic buildings have been lost or vacant lots. New construction is encouraged to add streetscape and promote economic development. Infill construction in Madison residential areas should be compatible with adjacent buildings in scale, height, materials, orientation, shape, placement, and rhythm of the proportions of openings. Contemporary designs are encouraged, but replicas of historic designs may also be acceptable. The building should be compatible in terms of height. The building should be compatible with adjacent buildings in terms of material. The building should be compatible with adjacent buildings in terms of setback. And it appears that this carport that you want to put in, it does fit into to the surrounding area just fine.
Anything else? Okay. I want to step back a little bit, were there any comments also from the public? Any thoughts about this particular application? Okay. So, if there are no other comments, we'll start with you, Ken. On Jerome's thoughts about the project?
I agree with Jerome, same reasons.
Okay. Jerry?
Approve, same reasons.
Owen?
Yeah, I think the main point is, number 7, since it specifically talks about a garage, it says it should be set well back and on a side elevation, and this is both side elevation and well back, so you could hardly do it better than that.
Thank you. And I agree for the same reasons. Ask for a motion.
Based on the preceding findings of fact, I move that the Madison Historic District Board of Review grant a certificate of appropriateness to Vilden Meredith to build at 724 Saddle Tree Lane for the proposed garage as described in the application.
Ask for a second.
Second.
Brooke, roll call.
I should say carport. Can I change that to carport instead of garage? It's not really a garage.
Thank you, Owen.
Jerry Wade,
Approve.
Thank you.
Ken McWilliams,
Approved.
Thank you.
Jerome Vernon,
Approved.
Thank you.
Owen McCall,
Approve.
Thank you.
and Thomas Stark.
Approved.
Thank you.
Okay, our next applicant tonight is Jerry and Bonnie Owens at 1209 West Main Street.
Need a building permit for a garage on 1209.
Okay, and could you state your name for us?
Jerry M. Owens.
Thank you. And Brooke will let you.
This the house is circa 1880, and the garage was circa 1920. Both are listed as contributing structures. They are zoned residential medium density. The COA request is to demolish the garage and rebuild a garage to the exact size and specifications as the old garage. You can see pictures. These photographs came from Google Images 2018. But this is what the garage looked like prior. It has since been removed, and this is currently what the site looks like with new framing that was starting to go up before a stop work order was put on. I did talk to Mrs. Owens, and she did say that they had taken the old trusses from the original garage and were having new trusses built to the exact specifications because of height issues in the area. I guess there's an overhead power line. So she did say that they were going very exact with trying to keep the same footprint in all terms of height and all of that. They are requesting on the sides to use, on the left-hand side, you'll see an example of essentially corrugated metal as the siding. The original garage had the same corrugated metal. However, they are wanting to use an overhead garage door with no windows, so the one on the right would be an example of something similar to what they would use. Just very, modest and like I said, no windows or anything like that. And this is a site plan of where the garage would sit. Because of the footprint, it's dug out a little bit. So it's going to use that same footprint, but it does sit on the rear of the lot. They are going to BZA next month to get approval on setbacks. But that's it. That's all I have.
Okay. And did you have any comments or anything you'd like to add to the presentation?
No, it's gonna be put back, pretty much just, we was able to save the, foundation and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but, it was, it'd been there for a long time,
Okay.
and it had, just time for gonna be put back good like it was.
Okay. Jerry, do you have any questions you'd like to ask?
I appreciate your proactiveness in wanting to put it back the right way.
Okay, thank you.
Ken?
Nothing.
Nothing? Jerome?
I just have one question. The decision to remove the old structure, was that because it was structurally unsound?
Yes, it was starting, we started, thought we might be able to save it, but when they started working on it, it rotted where the metal had deteriorated, and it just more or less fell down.
I see.
No, oh, I'm sorry. Did you have something else you wanted to say?
In the garage door that you're putting up, is that gonna be a double garage door?
No, it's just gonna be
A single.
Yes.
No further questions.
Okay, let me just a point of clarification, we can't grant you a building permit. Okay, we can grant you a certificate of appropriateness. You have to talk to Brian for a building permit, those are two different things.
Well, I mean, we just wanna, you know,
Move things along.
yeah, get it,
Right,
whether it's a building permit or just, you know, get the facility or building back, you know.
right, yeah, I mean, looking at this picture on Google Maps, it kind of is shocking to me that, I mean, it looks in pretty dadgum good shape, and just to think that it just fell down.
Well, I don't find that picture, I got a picture of it at home, it was taken back 1974 or something like that, and it looked pretty good then, but it was.
Because this was a contributing structure, you know, your house is, but oftentimes the house is, but the outbuildings often aren't, but this,
But it hadn't been used for, it wasn't, it still had it's got a dirt floor in it, and.
Right.
You couldn't, it was just, and it leaked, you know, it may look good, but.
it was built in 1920, you don't
Yeah.
expect it to be completely intact.
The
but it's-
roofing had rotted off of it, and,
Well, the roofing is metal, wasn't it?
right, yes.
Okay. So it's just disturbing to me that we just have a historic contributing structure that was just
And
destroyed
it's gonna have a metal roof put back.
with no permit.
Right.
You didn't get a permit to tear this down.
But now,
You didn't get a permit, a demolition permit to destroy this.
well, I was told, we thought we was going to be able to save maybe some of it, but like I say, when it, inside, it just more or less collapsed, what happened. So we had to get rid of it, so,
Well, it falls down, you can put it back up.
well, it's gonna be put back up,
Well,
I hope.
that's my only comment.
Brian, have you been working with Mr. Owens on this project?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, they're, upon placing the stop work order, then they've been obviously gotten on tonight's historic board as well as the agenda for the next PZA to follow through with that too, so.
Okay.
Approval of the historic board and approval of the PZA, and then they can get a building permit too.
Okay, thank you. Any comments from the public? Okay, Jerry, would you start us off with the findings of fact?
As soon as we can get them up there, absolutely.
Yep, there we go.
Yeah, on garages, residential guidelines, page 45, many dwellings retain original or added outbuildings constructed before the mid-1950s. These buildings contribute to the character of the historic district and should be preserved and maintained when feasible. New garages and outbuildings should follow new construction guidelines. Number one, garages and outbuildings that contribute to a property's historic character or the original property should be preserved and maintained. Original or historic features such as siding and windows should be repaired or replaced to match the original if readily visible from the street. Number two, original garages and buildings should remain at their original location. However, relocating the structure to another part of the lot may be appropriate if that's the only way to preserve the building. Number three, original doors such as early 20th century garage doors should be maintained to the greatest extent possible, but may be retrofitted with modern hardware and demolition of residential guidelines, page 80. The buildings that contribute to the historic residential character of the historic district neighborhood are irreplaceable physical evidence of Madison's past. The loss of any such building affects not only the individual building, but the surrounding landscape. Number one, demolition may be appropriate if the building does not contribute to the character of the district. Number two, applicants for the demolition should explore possibilities for selling or reusing historic buildings, preferably on-site, but also at other location as an alternative to demolition. Applicants should consider mothballing the building, which involves developing a strategy for halting deterioration, protecting it from vandalism, and stabilizing the building structurally until such time that proper rehab or restoration may commence. Number three, demolition may be appropriate if the denial of the demolition will result in a demonstrable economic hardship on the owner. Moving a building from its historic location will be approved only if all other alternatives for preservation have been explored. Number four, demolition by neglect occurs when a building is allowed to deteriorate through a lack of maintenance. It is self-imposed hardship that will not be considered a mitigating circumstance when determining economic hardship. Findings of fact, new construction infill buildings, residential guidelines, page 6971. When historic buildings have been lost or where they are vacant lots, new construction is encouraged to add to the streetscape and promote economic development. Infill construction in Madison's residential area should be compatible with adjacent buildings in scale, height, materials, orientation, shade, placement, and rhythm and proportion of openings. Contemporary designs are encouraged, but replicas of historic designs may also be acceptable. Number one, new buildings should be compatible with the adjacent buildings in terms of height. Number two, compatible with the adjacent buildings in terms of materials. And number three, compatible with the adjacent buildings in terms of setback.
Sorry.
Number four, new buildings should be compatible with the adjacents in terms of scale and proportions. Number five, in terms of roof form. Number six, in terms of the orientation towards the major street. And lastly, number seven, new garages should be built at the rear of the dwelling or set back on side elevations.
And Jerry, is it your opinion then that this project does meet or does not meet the guidelines? And we could go by each category, the garages and outbuildings, infill, and also demolition?
Yeah, it's my opinion that the new construction part meets it. I share a little bit of Owen's concern that in looking at the pictures, it looked like there was a building there and it was not imploded. I'm excited that he's wanting to build something new. I do have a question mark in regards to what happened to the existing structure.
Okay, thank you.
It's gonna be the same, gonna be the color of the house, the roof's gonna be the same color as the home too.
We don't deal with color at all.
I mean, it's just, it's got, the homes is, gray with a green roof, and so that's, don't match that.
Ken?
Mr. Chairman, it's unfortunate the piece was demolished, but Mr. Owens building the new garage, exact same footprint, exact same plan. So I think it meets the facts.
And Owen?
Well, okay, starting off with page 45, garages and outbuildings, the application doesn't mention, or I should say, the application says the materials will match historic materials. Can you elaborate on that?
Not really. Some of the lumber, I think maybe it was for the rafters and stuff, but other than that, it was pretty well dilapidated.
But your application says that what you're putting back.
I don't know how it's gonna be put back, like it was, it's gonna be new stuff, really.
But it doesn't mention what the historic materials were.
I don't know where that
Can
came
you
from.
specify what those materials are going to be?
If I may speak to that a little bit, when his wife, Mrs. Owens, came in, she and I sat down and filled out the application. The reason that was put in is that the historic garage had metal siding. and a metal roof. She was saying that when they're rebuilding this garage, it's going to have metal siding, and a metal roof like the historic garage had. And that the modern corrugated tin, or corrugated metal siding may not match exactly what was historically on there, but that they were trying to get something very compatible and close.
That photograph to me looks like wood siding.
It was metal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was metal.
Okay.
Work on the existing garage that was demolished.
Mhm.
Was that a standing seam,
No,
metal roof?
no, it was not.
Okay, so that's page 45, garages and outbuildings. So I would say, given what we've just learned, that fulfills the guidelines. Going to infill buildings, I think the pertinent thing is, as far as all of the various points of compatibility, is that since it is going to be built on the historic foundation, which is still there.
We was lucky there, that it's, everything's, the foundation is,
And you're constrained in how far up you can go because of the power lines, that the form, scale, and everything is going to basically be the same as it was. So that, to me, says that your project does fulfill infill buildings. But again, the demolition, clearly, demolition, page 80 and 81, does not go with the guidelines. Your project violates all of those guidelines. This was a contributing historic structure that was destroyed, in my view.
Thank you. Jerome?
Yeah, it's an open frame construction originally to begin with, so I imagine when you started removing and replacing some of the metal panels, basically the whole thing just kind of dismantled on the folks who were working on it. Am I correct in assuming that?
yeah, it just, well, it was really dangerous and that, and the guy that people were working on, you know.
So there was wood rot?
Yes.
Right. And looking at the design you've already got it pretty much framed out. You're going with the same framing style as the original.
Yes, yes.
And then for
It's
the
gonna be the same, pretty much the
same
same size.
footprint, same.
I'm not
yeah.
sure on,
Right, as far as the infill,
or
but I'm on the materials now, the construction, the outbuilding. So the metal siding and the roofing materials, are they close to, as close as you could get to what the original building looked like?
yes, it's gonna be vertical,
It's gonna be vertical,
Yeah.
okay. I wasn't quite sure when I saw that
Yeah.
picture, it almost like it was
it's gonna be
horizontal.
vertical and,
Understood.
roof's gonna be.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, it's unfortunate it fell down, or, you know, you had problems in trying to repair it.
Well, some people have broken into it, the door was, you know, thought somebody may get in there at night or something, and, you know, homeless somebody maybe in sleep and it'd fall, but it was pretty, it was getting
You
bad.
felt it was a dangerous structure?
Yeah,
Right.
so we had it wired and didn't have a lock on it, but somebody got in there.
Right. And originally it had hinged doors.
Yeah,
And now you're going with a roll-up,
right.
electric garage door opener and so on, I suspect. More for convenience sake than anything else.
Yeah.
I think originally it had what do you call it, a barn door that slides on a track.
Oh, it was a track door?
Yeah, it was,
I think they still sell those.
I'm not sure.
Those
It's,
mechanisms, that might be something to look at. But,
Yeah.
yeah.
But the way it is now there, it's kind of,
Are you gonna build a second story?
no,
It'll be all open.
up
To the
it's gonna be
ceiling.
open upstairs, yeah.
I see.
As of right now.
Not that that
we're not
matters
making
to us, it's just curiosity. Yeah,
Anything else?
I feel it's appropriate what you're doing.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jerome. So just a couple of notes. I mean, the building was demolished.
Right.
And that always, any building in historic Madison needs approval. I just want to underscore that a couple of times before it can be demolished and hauled away.
Okay.
It's already done, and I would agree that, you know, it appears that what you're building back is going to be a close sample of what was there. But going forward, again, I just want to remind anybody that anytime we remove historic fabric from historic Madison, commercial and residential, it's gone forever. So we need to be very careful and thoughtful when it comes to demolition and just taking out historic material. With that said, I'll ask for a motion. Owen, you want to start us off?
I'm good.
Or you got
Make
it?
a motion, no.
Okay.
I would like to, based upon the findings of fact, suggest that the Madison Historic Board of Review grant a certificate of appropriateness for 1209 West Main Street to Jerry Owens for the, yes, thank you, for the construction of a new garage.
Thank you.
And do we have the dimensions on that garage, correct? I mean, I know that it's following the same footprint.
Yes.
Okay, the height also?
The height, I don't have the specific dimensions on, no. I know there was a lot of conversation about the trusses with Mrs. Owens, that they went to, I believe, Scottsburg or somewhere to buy the new trusses, and that they had taken the old historic trusses in to get the exact measurements.
Okay.
So that the roof will have the same pitch and the whole 9 yards.
Okay. I'll ask for a motion.
Already have the motion.
You
I
have
have a
a
motion, I'm sorry, second?
Second.
Okay.
Just as a reminder too, we do need to address the demolition since that's part of the application.
You
So
wanna
if
do
you wanna
that?
do that in the same motion, or you can do it as separate motions, it's up to you.
Why don't we do it in separate motions?
Okay.
Does everybody agree to that? Okay. Owen, are you okay with that? Jerome?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll, why don't we start with the demolition?
Well, Jerry, had Jerry
Okay, so,
done for the building the garage?
right, but we're going to vote for it.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I thought you said we were starting with the demolition.
Just to vote on whether it's approved or meets the guidelines or doesn't meet the guidelines, right?
Well, we need to vote on Jerry's motion first, and then,
On the motion.
Say what?
we'll need to vote on Jerry's motion first.
Okay.
And then
And then
someone will
separate.
have to do a second
Gotcha.
motion for
Okay,
the demo.
then we're ready for roll call.
Okay. Jerome Vernon,
Approved.
Jerry Wade,
Approved.
Ken McWilliams,
Approved.
Owen McCall,
Approve.
and Thomas Stark.
Approved?
Okay. So that one, so what, sorry, you go ahead, I shouldn't jump in there.
No, I was just, so we've approved the motion. Now do we go to the demolition
Yeah.
portion of it?
Yeah, now we'll
Okay.
need to take care of that one.
So we need to have another motion.
Right.
Okay. Can I have a motion on the demolition?
Based on the preceding finding of fact, I move that the Madison Historic District Board of Review deny a certificate of appropriateness for the demolition of the garage at the rear of 1209 West Main Street.
Second? No second? What do we do? Can I second?
Yeah.
A second. Okay. Roll call?
Jerome Vernon,
Remember, this is voting to deny. We don't
Deny
usually
the-
do that.
The demolition, yeah.
right, yeah, this is a voting to deny.
Yeah, I do not approve.
That
So-
means you
You
approve the
deny.
demolition.
Do you agree with him or
Yeah.
disagree?
Disagree.
Okay.
No, okay, so just to clarify and make sure, Owen is saying he does not approve of the demolition, so
Without approval.
to deny that is saying
That you approve of the
that you
demolition.
approve of the demolition.
Right, which goes against our guidelines.
Well, I know.
Approved.
I just, okay. Jerry Wade, Williams,
Abstain.
Owen McCall,
Approve.
and Thomas Stark.
Approve?
Okay.
Okay, so you will get a certificate of appropriateness mailed by Brooke for the reconstruction of your garage. Thanks
Okay.
for coming in tonight.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And how they within
I'm sorry?
time period or?
It's usually done within about a working week, 5 to 7 days.
I try to get it done as soon as possible.
Okay, that's fine, I just,
You have the approval on this, but you still have the BZA on
Okay.
June 14th.
yes, that's
So-
what I was thinking about.
Yeah,
Okay.
so nothing can be done until after you go to BZA and if you get approval from them.
Oh,
So
okay.
you still can't do anything yet.
Yes, I knew that, I just, okay.
Okay, yes, I just wanted to remind you,
Okay,
but,
thank you.
but yeah, you're good to go on this end.
Mhm.
Okay. Is that it?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Owens. Okay. Our next applicant is Howard and Lisa Gutschall.
Hi, Lisa Cutshall, 324 Presbyterian.
This is a circa 1860 contributing home zoned historic district residential. The COA request is to demolish and rebuild the 16 by 10 addition to the rear of each duplex side and replace the windows with 2/2 double hung Pella vinyl windows and build a 16 by 6 wood deck on the rear of each duplex side. I did do staff approvals on aluminum standard modern gutters to replace the exterior doors with a wooden glass door, remove newer brick infill of historic door opening and install a wood door there, install electric meter on the rear of the property, one per side, install two install two exterior water faucets, one on each side, install HVAC unit on the rear of rear of the home, one per side. These plans show, the one on the top shows the current addition, and then the red dotted lines show where the addition, is wanting to be expanded to. I know that's a little harder to see, but the one on the bottom shows the new footprint, that they're wanting to build with the rear addition and the deck. And that's all I have.
Did you have anything else you'd like to add to the presentation or to the project in general?
Just that it's in really, it's falling apart, so, we're excited about the project.
It is an exciting project.
Yeah, it really, really is, so, we're, looking forward to seeing all of this take shape.
Yeah. Jerry, did you have any questions or comments about the project in general?
No.
Lisa, we can. So, looking through the prospectus you had it's just fabulously well prepared. But I'm gonna challenge you in one piece on putting vinyl windows on the Second Street front. Just seems to denigrate the entire project. And Pella's not an inexpensive product.
Right.
But you can't put wood windows just on the Second Street?
We priced it. We did get pricing for all of it, and honestly, like the project itself,
Oh, I know.
because of material costs.
How many tens of thousands are you
Oh.
over budget?
yeah, we
$500
are already
million.
so over budget, but,
Everybody is when they do these
yeah.
projects. You have to to me, you have to dig in your pockets and put appropriate windows on that Second Street facade. And Brooke, I didn't find any windows in this piece, anything talked about windows.
It's on the second page under conformance with the guidelines. You'll see a blue box, and
Yes.
then, I believe it's the second,
Okay, with the exception of vinyl windows, but you didn't have the guidelines for windows in
it's on this other part for where the window, the guidelines for
there.
windows.
No, Lisa, God bless you for doing this. Put good windows on that Second Street front.
Thanks, Ken. Owen?
Yes, let's see, first question, structure in the back that you want to demolish. Have you demolished it yet?
It fell down. It was a really, really, I mean, we had a tree growing through it, and they had to get at the gas lines that were kind of, so part of that, it's still like the stone blocks are there, but yeah, it was really, really unsafe.
But there's no photographs, right, that we can see to see how deteriorated it is?
I didn't have any photos.
I could probably pull some up on my phone.
And we're really not allowed to go and
Okay, go
trespass
back.
and look at it, so it'd be nice if we could see it before we say, yeah, go ahead and demolish it. I mean, I'm not saying you're not telling us exactly how it is.
Yeah.
It'd just be nice to be able to see it.
Yeah, we had to call, we had kittens coming out of the ceiling, I mean, like,
Sounds
it
like a
was
good
really,
thing.
really unbelievably unsafe, so, yeah.
Okay, so that's that. All right, my next question, let's see. On your windows, I didn't see any photographs of the windows, which made me suspect that perhaps they were not 80% deteriorated, which is what they have to be before you can replace them with.
If you, in some of the pictures, you can see, like, some of them, there are no windows. I mean, like, there are no windows there. Most of them are covered with plastic because there's no window, there's no glass to it at all. The frames are completely rotted out. The brickwork around it's gonna have to be repaired even because it
Well,
was
just
rotted out.
walking by there today and just looking at it from the street, it looked to me that 907 and 909 are a little bit different. 909 has historic 2/2s that look to me, I mean, I didn't get right up to them obviously, but they look in pretty good shape. And those are historic. I think it'd be wonderful if you could actually have those restored.
I wish we could. Honestly, the windows that we picked out are 2/2, but they're so far gone, yeah.
And 907 has 6/6s, which technically you think, well, boy, that's even older, but obviously not.
Yeah.
The ones 907 are more modern. They are 6/6s, but they're more modern, not historic, I wouldn't
We
imagine.
would like to take them all to the 2/2. We
Yeah.
want to have it look consistent across the front.
Right, and so I would say, you have windows on the front, and then I would say both of the side windows, it's not symmetrical on 7 and 9, they're a little different, but both of them seem to be visible from the street to me, so I'd say even the side windows are covered. The guidelines have to concern themselves with them. The deck seems like it's not visible from the street at all. And of course your rear additions are basically the same footprint, so that sounds good, but yeah, just it'd be nice to see a picture of what's gonna be torn down, but that was my own questions and comments.
Thank you. And Jerome, did you have any additional comments or questions?
Yeah, yes, I did. I'm fine with the deck, the addition, the demolition of the outbuilding. I do have a problem with the windows, and I'm fine with your choice of windows for the rear of the house. The issue I have with this proposal is the windows on the front of the house. And I'd like you to reconsider the front of the house and maybe look at going with aluminum clad windows or wood. I think aluminum clad would be a much less expensive way to go. And then there's also the option of applying for a grant for the front windows, and basically have the City of Madison fund 50% of the cost of those of the front windows and the work they do in the front of the house. So that might be an option to help save some money. I know you mentioned you looked at pricing on windows and so on, but the grant is a wonderful process.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have taken it. So we just had a person earlier today that took advantage of that and was really happy with the way it worked out.
Yeah.
So I think that's your options. I'm really not okay with putting the vinyl windows on the front of the house. It's just not compatible at all with the historic district of Madison.
Thanks, Jerome. So demolition without approval seems to be a theme tonight. And I just want to underscore once again, even if there is a tree growing up, you know, anytime that we demolish any historic fabric within the city, we need to get approval first. That said, this project is really exciting, and that place has been an eyesore for quite a while. So we're very excited about that. I would agree with Ken and the rest of the folks that have talked about the windows. They either need to be wood or aluminum clad, 2/2. And if you need help, Brooke can help you with a paste brand. And I don't know, have you checked into that?
I do, I have the paperwork for it, and yes,
Okay.
she provided that.
And that may help with those windows in the front. And then, you know, the vinyl on the rest of the 3 sides will be fine. I do have a question on the deck. Are you planning on staining the decks or painting the decks to blend in with the house?
Staining.
Staining, okay. Because one of our guidelines is that they should either be stained or painted. Okay.
Let me stain it.
You know, overall, I think everything that you're doing meets the guidelines well, with the exceptions of what I just said. Thank you for taking this project on. Appreciate it. Okay. I'll ask for a motion.
Wait, I mean, weren't those simply just questions and comments?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, they were. Sorry, Owen. Thank you for. And do we have any comments then from the public, or any questions from the public on this project? Okay. Owen, do you want to start us off with findings of fact?
Okay. All right, so yeah, back to the windows. A lot of this we'll have already mentioned, but vinyl windows. Okay, on page 61, this is a quote. Vinyl or vinyl-clad wood windows should not be installed on any facade visible from street views, period. Pretty clear in the guidelines. Okay, also, 909 has historic windows. And to me, it seemed like they're in pretty good shape. So here on page 61, point number 3, quote, windows should be repaired rather than replaced. If severe deterioration necessitates replacement, parentheses, 80% of the original window is missing or deteriorated, close parentheses, new wood windows should be in kind to match the original design and materials. Baked enamel or anodized aluminum windows may be appropriate. Vinyl or vinyl-clad windows should not be installed. Okay. So it's pretty clear to me that the windows part of this application does not comport with the guidelines. Okay, decks, I'd say fine, it's not visible from any street or alleys on the rear facade. That's just what it asks for on page 64. The rear and lateral additions, again, not visible from any street or alley, so it's even going to be essentially the same footprint as what they want in a demo on 907. So that is completely in line with page 68, rear and lateral additions. And then demolition, I have to say no, because we don't have any objective evidence, no photos. Brooke can't testify to us that it's in terrible, terrible shape, so since we don't know how bad a shape it's actually in, I don't see how we can grant a demolition. I don't see how demolishing it at this point is possible with issuance of a certificate of appropriateness, I should say.
That concluded? Okay, thank you. So I'll ask for a motion, but before I do,
Wait, no, have you gone through every, see, I just started off.
that's right. Jerome, go ahead.
Now, Jerome.
Okay, I disagree with one point of Owen's finding of facts on the condition of windows on the street side. I did inspect the windows personally. I drove by, I looked at them very closely, and from my observation, the windows were 80% plus deteriorated and should be replaced.
So do you disagree or agree?
I disagree.
Okay. I agree with Owen for the same reasons.
I agree with Jerome for the same reasons.
I agree with all the comments that I think we're going for the wrong windows and a pace grant would be appropriate and pictures of the deck would have been helpful.
Okay, with that said, I will ask for a motion now.
Well, can we split this up? It seems that some things everybody is fine with, other things not everyone is, so
Yeah.
maybe we need separate motions.
How would you recommend, you want us to do, maybe the demolition and, the windows separately? And then the decks and,
That sounds
additions?
good.
Yeah, I
Together?
would say that sounds good.
Okay, so I'll ask for a motion for the, building of the rear, and lateral additions and the decks.
Okay, I don't know what I call this. Anybody else want to do it? I see how I'm doing all the motions again.
Way to go.
Okay, all right, so, based on the preceding findings of fact, I move that the Madison Historic District Board of Review grant a certificate of appropriateness to Howard and Lisa Cutshall for the proposed rear deck and, rear and lateral additions, for the proposed, located at, 907 and 909 West Second Streets.
Second.
Roll call?
Jerome Vernon,
Approved?
Jerry Wade,
Approved?
Ken McWilliams,
Approved.
Owen McCall,
Approve.
and Thomas Stark.
Approved. Okay, I will ask for a motion for the second part. Can we combine those two together, do you think?
No.
Or should we separate them?
Let's-
Okay,
let's
let's
separate.
separate them. Let's start with the windows first. Jerry, would you, provide us with the motion on that?
I would, this is on the windows, right?
Yes, just the windows.
And we've done the finding of fact.
Yep,
I would make a motion that, based upon the preceding findings of fact, I would not suggest the Madison Historic District approve the windows and not grant a certificate of appropriateness for 1209 West Main. Excuse me, wrong address for the
907, 909.
907 to 909 West Second Street.
Second.
second? Okay, roll call?
Jerome Vernon,
Approved?
Jerry Wade,
Approved.
Ken McWilliams,
Approved.
Owen McCall,
Approve.
and Thomas Stark.
Approved. Okay, and last but not least, the demolition. Ken?
Based on the preceding findings of fact, I move the Madison Historic District Board of Review deny a COA to the Cutshalls for demoing their rear deck.
In a second?
Not a deck.
It's a,
Outbuilding.
it was an addition, right?
Rear addition.
Oh,
Well, there was a section off the rear, and then the other side had a deck. I mean, like, it was a deck that tied together with a part of
Almost
it.
right.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, all those, do I need to restate that?
No.
You can
I
clear
think
that up.
since you clarified.
So you got the addition and the, attached deck?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, good. So second,
I second.
roll call.
Jerome Vernon,
Approved?
Jerry Wade,
Approved.
Ken McWilliams,
Approved.
Owen McCall,
Approve.
and Thomas Stark.
Approved. Okay, with that said, Brooke will be issuing, you guys this certificate of appropriateness for the two decks and for the rear and lateral additions on the back of, the property at 907 and 909 West Second Street. Thanks for taking this project on, and I hope that you will follow up with Brooke in regards to the paperwork and seeing if you can get some financial help to get the either wood or aluminum clad wood windows in the front of the house. With your properties, thank you.
Just to let you know, if you do decide to go with the PACE grant or however you wanna do that, I would be able to do a staff approval on a window that does conform to the guidelines, so you wouldn't have to come back through this process again.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's see, our next applicant then is Judith Kohler.
Brian's gonna.
Oh,
I'll speak for her, I guess.
would you ever read it?
Brian Martin, 104 Sharon Street.
All right, this is, for Judy Kohler. It's a circa 1850 contributing home zoned historic district residential. COA is requesting to build a 21 by 22 foot carport at the west side of the property. The carport will have a fire rated common wall with garage at 615 Mulberry. We have several site photographs. So you can see the site. And then this is the proposed garage, but it will have no returns as this one did.
Close carport.
Carport, yes, sorry, I said garage. And then these are the elevations, plans for the carport. And then we have a site plan as well, so you can see where it's going to sit in reference to the house. And that's all I have.
Do you have anything else you wanted to?
Well, I'm happy to try and answer your questions. Judy actually is unfortunately out of town, but she said that we could give her a call if need be.
Okay.
But I would, I guess, let the application speak for itself as much as it can, so I don't, misspeak for her. But,
Yeah.
And just to be clear, she did receive on this property and the property to the north, she received a zero lot line approval
Okay.
through the BZA in anticipation of doing this structure and potentially another one.
Where
So
they join up?
on the north, on hers, the blank facade there in the bottom right corner is the north facade of her carport. So that would basically be the shared wall.
Okay.
Mhm. That makes sense. Couldn't think of.
Yeah, and so just a quick question. The access to this particular carport is on the, would that be east-west alley then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And then the access to the other one, which we'll get to, I'm just curious, where does that,
She established a driveway on the north side of 615.
From the alley?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, no, not from the alley, from Mulberry.
From
There's
Mulberry?
been, yeah.
Okay.
It hasn't
She
been-
got,
Hasn't been broken through the street.
yeah, no
Okay.
driveway cut.
That's
Yeah.
where you see the dumpster.
yeah,
That-
okay.
That's a driveway?
It will be.
It
Oh,
will
I
be.
got it. Okay.
She spoke to Tony Strells from the street department to get approval to do that, to eventually do the driveway cut there, but she just hadn't gone any further on that part of that project yet, so.
Is that alley on the backside of those two houses, is that considered a street or an alley?
It's considered an alley.
Because there is a carriage house there with
There
an
is-
address?
there is, yes.
Okay,
I wanna say it's the north-south alley that's actually named for
Okay.
that carriage house.
okay. So, board questions and comments on this particular project?
Brian, an ancillary question
Yes.
on the house at 613 that we're talking about now. Do you recall what windows were, it's all new windows. Are they
In the-
vinyl, clad, wood?
In the original brick structure,
Yes,
they are, I believe they are Quaker clad, wood window, aluminum
they're
clad.
clad, okay.
Yes,
No, because to me, it's important for the next application.
It is, yes.
Thank you.
Jerry, or anything from you?
My curiosity was Ken, so that answered my question.
Okay. I have one question. What makes that wall a firewall between the new garage, which we'll be discussing later, and the carport?
Okay. So it's basically, it's the means of construction. It has to basically do two things. It has to create a fire barrier, a burn-through barrier from either side. That can be achieved with say a concrete block wall and or a framed wall with the appropriate fire code drywall applied on each side. But the point is, it protects the opposite structure,
Right.
you know, for a certain amount of time. The other part of that, other component is that you cannot structurally depend on that wall for your own structure. So technically what it amounts to is there's a wall in the middle floating that is a fire assembly, complete fire assembly, and both structures will be built to it. So it can be connected to it, but they can't rely on that for structure.
Okay, so it's really just attached at the roof level then?
Well, it would be, I mean, it's technically
What's
the
yeah.
whole wall. I mean, it can be, you know, from foundation to roof.
Okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
it just, again, it just has to be a complete assembly.
Gotcha.
And usually a fire assembly wall, that won't have any mechanical in there at all. You know,
Okay.
electrical, plumbing, HVAC, nothing like that.
Owen, did you have any thoughts, questions?
No, it's just whenever Judy's projects come up, they make me smile because she does everything so nicely.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be the only comment, the little, let's call it the little carriage house behind. I think that's a pretty good example of the quality that she'll be doing on this one as well.
Yep.
And not necessarily exactly the same style, but I would say it's similar, so.
Yeah.
Brian, I'm sure a question we'd have for Judy, any idea when that project would be completed?
You know, I don't know, but I will say on the house, I've been over for roughing inspections, through insulation, which means she can be installing drywall. So I know she wants to keep it moving for sure.
Okay, good, good.
Okay, with that said, are there any questions, comments, or input from the public? Jerome, would you like to start us off with the findings of fact?
Sure. New construction infill buildings and residential guidelines are found on page 69 to 71 of the residential guidelines. And where historic buildings have been lost or where there are vacant lots, new construction is encouraged to add to streetscape and promote economic development. Infill construction of Madison residential areas should be compatible with adjacent buildings in scale and height, materials, orientation, shape, placement, and rhythm and proportions of openings. Contemporary designs are encouraged, but replicas of historic designs may also be accepted. New buildings should be compatible with adjacent buildings in terms of height. New buildings should be compatible with adjacent buildings in terms of material. New buildings should be compatible with adjacent buildings in terms of setback. New buildings should be compatible with adjacent buildings in terms of scale and proportions. New buildings should be compatible with adjacent buildings in terms of roof form. New buildings should be orientated towards the major street. And new garages should be built at the rear of the building or set well back on side elevations.
Okay, thank you. Ken?
I approve, same reason.
Jerry?
Proof for the same reason.
Owen?
I agree for the same reasons.
And I agree for the same reasons as well. Okay, I'll ask for a motion.
Based on the proceedings findings of fact, I move the Madison District Board of Review grant COA to Judy Kohler, 315 Mulberry, 613 Mulberry, had some of those numbers right, to build a carport at the rear of the building.
Second?
I second that.
Thank you. And roll call.
Jerome Vernon,
Approved?
Jerry Wade,
Approve.
Ken McWilliams,
Approve.
Owen McCall,
Approve.
Thomas Stark.
Approved. Thank you. I guess you'll let Judy know that the COA will be sent out and she can get started with her work.
Texting her right now.
Perfect. Thanks a lot. Okay, our next project is an application is Lindsey Clark.
Hi, my name is Lindsey Clark. I'm the project manager for Clear Lake Shore Alternative Fund, which is based out of Louisville. But I will say I was born and raised here in downtown Madison, in an historic home. My parents still live here. I grew up with the kids at 828 West 2nd Street, and so every time I drive by it on the way out of town, like, it makes me sad. It's been in disrepair for like a really long time, so it came across my desk maybe 6 months ago. And so we snatched it up pretty quickly. Now, I went through my realtor, who was Jessica Butler. I went to high school with her, and she told me to reach out to the historic board, which I did. Brooke was still pretty new then, and I immediately got the windows and doors and everything going through. Now, at the time, which was just stupidity on my part and like lack of doing due diligence, I did not reach out to get a building permit because I just didn't know what I didn't know. So we got a stop work order placed on the back part. There's like a little lean-to that was attached to the back of the structure. It was, like I said, stupidity on my part that it was part of the historic structure, but it was definitely caving in and falling down. So we started to pull it off, and that's when we got the stop order. So I think that the review today is for the demolition, which was already done. We're not rebuilding it. It was made out of wood, and the rest of the house is brick, so we were just gonna leave it off of the back of the house. So that's it.
Okay. Questions from the board?
I do have the pictures if you want, I'll go through those. This circa 1850 contributing structure, zoned historic district residential. As Ms. Clark mentioned, it's to demo the rear. I did get some pictures, I guess, while they were in the process, when they had started. So you can see the picture on the right. You do see clearly the deterioration. And then in this picture on the right is after it had already been, removed and taken off. But if you, out on the site visit, I'm sure you noticed the top right-hand corner, if you're facing the rear of the house, you can still see where it was pretty rotted through there from, damage done by that rear addition. And the picture on the left, again, you can kind of see the shape that addition was in.
Is that it for? Okay.
Yes.
Owen, did you have any questions?
Well, no, I have a comment is that, at least just looking at Google Street View, there's a really good view of that. I don't know how many years old that is, but it certainly doesn't look like it was caving in on Google Street View.
I live by it. It's right behind me. And it's crap.
Is it caving in crap or just crap?
It's caving in crap. You can ask me and the Carlos and anybody that lives in that neighborhood.
It was particularly on the other side, not on the street side, but on the other side, it was completely like falling off of the side, on the side of the house. It was completely slanted and like falling off the side. And I sent pictures, I think, from the outside before it was even touched, and you could kind of see that.
Any questions from this end of the chair? No? Okay. I have a couple questions. I did walk by and, I've walked my dogs by there quite a bit, and I did see that there was a lot of decay on that back section, and especially as Brooke pointed out on that one corner, upper right-hand corner, the wood is rotted up there, even on top of the brick. One question I have for you is, are you going to renovate the house, or how are you going to seal that off, the back side of it now?
Well, we didn't really know what we were gonna find once we demoed it, so then we had the stop order. We haven't, planned on, we are obviously gonna make it, we're selling it. Once we
Okay.
renovate it, we're planning on selling
And that
it.
was my question. basically.
So it has to pass inspection, so we'll definitely work with Brian on what's, sound on his part, but obviously, so that it'll pass inspection so we can sell it, so.
Okay. And Brooke, if I heard you correctly, the windows have already been approved?
Yes.
Staff approval?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, with that said then, are there any comments from, or questions from the public? Okay, well, let's go ahead then and, Ken, would you like to lead us off with the findings of fact?
No.
It should be pretty quick. So the only thing that we're approving or not approving today would be the demolition.
Yes.
So the findings of fact, starting on page 80 of the residential guidelines, is that buildings that contribute to the character of the historic district are irreplaceable. And demolition may be appropriate if it does not contribute. This one did. Applicants for demolition should explore possibilities for reusing the materials, which I'm sure wasn't possible in this case. And demolition may be appropriate if the denial of a demolition will result in demonstrable economic hardship on the owner. That's not accurate. So, Mr. Chairman, I see findings of facts, so there's no reason to approve this demolition.
Okay, thank you, Ken. Jerry? Do you agree or disagree?
Agree.
Okay, and Owen?
I agree.
Jerome?
I agree.
And I agree for the same reasons. Just another side note, if you're gonna demolish anything, make sure that you get the approval, appropriate approval going forward. This COA will not be approved for the demolition. And I guess that's a wrap.
We need to vote on.
Oh, we need to vote
the
on it,
motion
yeah,
and
I'm
all
sorry.
that, yeah.
So let's ask for a motion.
Based on the preceding findings of fact, I move that the Madison Historic District Board of Review deny a certificate of appropriateness to Lindsey Clark for the proposed demolition of the rear of the building located at 828 West 2nd Street.
Second,
I second.
and roll call.
Sorry. Jerome Vernon,
Approved.
Jerry Wade,
Approve.
Ken McWilliams,
Approved.
Owen McCall,
Approve.
and Thomas Stark.
Approved?
So, Lindsay, I will send out a copy of the denied certificate, but, as they said, I mean, it's already been done, so.
So what we
Like you and I
decide
talked
to
about.
do on the outside, I mean, we're just gonna fix what's there and make it appropriate. Will we go through this process again to get that approved, or will that be a Brian?
If you're gonna stay with the brick, since it's brick exterior, and you're just gonna do whatever repairs are needed, and then possibly paint or however you're gonna do that, if it's considered a repair, you would not need to. You wouldn't
Okay.
even need to file an application. If you want to, let's just go crazy, if you wanna put siding on the rear, then yeah, you would
Okay.
need to, the way I tell people is, any major facade change on the outside, it's always best to call and ask,
Okay.
and say, hey, do I need to do this? And you have my email, so you can even shoot me an email and say, hey, this is what we're thinking about doing, and I'll let you know real quick,
Great.
whether you need something or not, but
So
you
Lindsay,
shouldn't.
as I look at the back of that house, it looks like the west portion is brick, but the east portion, doesn't look to be brick. Was that at one time a porch on that section?
There was an addition or something put on
Okay.
on that other side.
So there's no brick on that side, correct?
I think there's some brick on that side. I'd have to go by there and see. Like, I think that there is some brick from the original thing, and then they put siding, I think, where they put, maybe an addition on there.
So I guess, going back to what Brooke said, if you
Yeah.
do decide that, part of that, is not brick and you're, gonna need to side it, then you would need to come get staff approval.
Well, that back side is all brick. That's definitely, I was talking about the side facing the house.
On the east side, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, okay,
So, but I'll make sure of all of that before I go forward, so.
thank you.
Thank you.
Our next applicant is, Karen, is it Modisette?
It is. I have it with me. Put it on mine.
I will, thank you.
Karen Mott, I said 745 West Main Street.
Okay. And Brooke, would you lead us through?
Sure will. This is circa 1850 contributing home zoned historic district residential. The COA is to install a 10-foot by 10-foot or 10-foot by 12 wood outbuilding at the rear of the property. And just to kind of give you some background, in June 2018, Ms. Modisette did receive approval from the HDBR to build a larger carport with an attached storage shed. but that was not done at the time, and the design has now changed. I think it's what, 3 or 4 times the cost of what it was originally, so, because we changed it just to be safe, we submitted a new application for this. But you will see on these are examples of kind of what she's looking at doing. But I believe in our discussions, we said something about, I don't think you were gonna have all the windows perhaps, or.
There won't be windows on the side, there'll be, the transom will be like that, and it won't be like stained or whatever, it'll be a color. I don't know what color. What color.
And then this was just a site plan, just showing, I apologize, that was for,
That's from the other.
that was from the other
but that,
application,
you know,
yeah.
it hasn't changed.
Yeah, so, yeah, so that's it, that's all I have then.
Okay.
Sorry.
Any questions from the board?
I'm Darren. Does this meet the alley or front the alley in the back?
It's in the alley,
It's on the alley.
right, where everybody else has carports.
Yeah, I got it. No, I just couldn't see
Same.
it with this.
And I would have built the other structure, except it's 50,000 now.
Boom.